Morning. I'm a Christian. I'm also a street preacher or street evangelist, and I go out onto the street to talk to people about Jesus. And one of the big questions that come up on the street is the question of our existence and evolution versus creation. And it's difficult to explain it when you're on a street setting. People are busy, they're walking past, and it's difficult to have a proper conversation. So I thought I would do a bit of what I would consider a talk on this subject, so that when I come across somebody who's questioning what I believe or we believe as Christians, and um, why we believe in the story of creation over evolution. So the Bible. This is the book that we refer to. I've got the New King James Version, which is the oldest translation, but it's updated for current language, i.e., you don't get these and thous and things like that. And the story of creation is um, the first story in the Bible. It's in chapter 1 and goes over into chapter 2. And I'm going to read it. And then I'm going to make some observations that I've been reflecting on for about a week. They might be a bit random. So, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, full stop. Verse 1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, full stop. Then we have the narrative of how God created the earth and life on earth. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. Then God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw the light, and it was good. And God divided the light from darkness. He called the light day, and the darkness he called night. So the evening and the morning were the first day. So we have a day, a rotation of the planet, day and night. First day. Then God said, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters. Let it divide the waters from the waters." Thus God made the firmament, and divided the waters from which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament, and it was so. And God called the firmament heaven. So the evening and the morning were the second day. So the second day God created the atmosphere on earth. Then God said, "Let the waters under the heavens be gathered together in one place, and let dry land appear." And it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters he called seas, and he saw that it was good. Then God said, "Let the earth bring forth grass, herb that yields seed, and the fruit tree that yields fruit according to its kind, whose seed is in itself on the earth." And it was so. So the third day we have, and the earth brought forth grass, and the herb that yields seed according to its kind, and the tree that yields fruit, whose seed is in itself according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. So the evening and the morning were the third day. So the third day, God separates the seas and land, and then plants and trees grow over the earth. Then God said, "Let the lights in the firmament of the heavens to divide the day from the night, and let there be signs and seasons, and for days and years, and let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens to give light on the earth." And it was so. Then God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. He set in the firmament the heavens to give light on the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. So the evening and morning were the fourth day. So God set everything in place. We're going to come to the order of this um, uh, passage in a bit when I talk about it, but on the fourth day we have the sun and the moon and stars, and they give light and they rule over the planet. Then God said, "Let the waters abound with an abundance of living creatures. Let birds fly above the earth across the face of the firmament of the heavens." So God created the sea creatures and every living thing that moves, with which the waters abound according to their kind, and every winged bird according to its kind. And God saw that it was good, and God blessed them, saying, "Be fruitful and multiply, fill the waters in the seas, and let the birds multiply on the earth." So the evening and the morning were the fifth day. So we have fish in the sea, and we have birds flying through the heavens, the sky. So evening, and that was the fifth day. Then God said, "Let the earth bring forth living creatures according to its kind." Notice, bring forth living creatures. Let the earth bring forth living creatures according to its kind, cattle and creeping things and beasts of the earth, each according to its kind. And it was so. And God made the beasts of the earth according to its kind, cattle according to its kind, and everything that creeps on the earth according to its kind. And God saw it was good. Okay, we have the earth created with plants. We have fish and birds and animals. Okay, this is the final, the sixth day. This is the final. And then God said, "Let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, over all the earth, and every creeping thing that creeps on the earth." So God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created him. Note the way that was worded. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. There's a repetition there. Male and female, he created them. God blessed them, and God said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it, have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over every living creature, a living thing that moves on the earth." And God said, "See, I have given you every herb that yields seed, which is on the face of all the earth, and every tree whose fruit yields seed. To you it shall be for food." So God provided us with sustenance to live on. Also to every beast of the earth, to every bird of the air, and to everything that creeps on the earth, in which there is life, I have given every green herb for food. And it was so. And God saw everything that he had made, and it was indeed, it was very good. So the evening and the morning were the sixth day. Thus the heavens and the earth and all the hosts of them were finished. And on the seventh day God ended his work which he had done, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had done. Then God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because in it he rested from all his work which God had created and made. Full stop. So it does then say, "This is the history of the heavens and the earth that were created in the day that the Lord God made the earth and the heavens, before any plant of the field was in the earth." And then it goes on to the next chapter about the creation of man and woman, and how he names woman, basically. Okay, so that is the story of creation in the Bible. Okay, so we need to look at this line by line. Line by line. In the beginnings, God created the heavens and the earth. That's a statement that everything we have was created by God. Then he goes on to say, "The earth was formed without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. Then God said, 'Let there be light,' and there was light. And God saw the light, and it was good, and he divided the night from darkness. He called the light day, and the darkness he called night. So the evening and the morning were the first day. Right, so let's just set the scene. This is the Bible. It's not a science book. It's a book about God. It's a book about deep wisdom. And wisdom literature has a structure. And you can see there's patterns in the literature. You know, it has a structure, it has a number, it has 7 days. 7 is the number of perfection. 6 is the number of man. Man was created on the 6th day. 7 is God, perfection, completeness, wholeness. So that's the first point. There is a pattern, of God speaking, which in itself is illuminating, it coming into existence, God naming it, God seeing it as good, and then and then it's a pattern that follows on. The observation is that there is a day one, and I think we would all have to agree there must have been a first day of this planet. There must have been day one, and then there's on that realization, if there's a day one, then there's a last day as well. If there's a first day, there must be a last day. Like a star is created, or a black hole, whatever, there's a start. This is the Bible is acknowledging that there must have been a day one. I'm not a literalist. I don't believe in physically God created the earth in 6 days. That sounds controversial. When you look at wisdom literature, you need understanding. To get understanding, you need to have fear of the Lord. It says in the beginning of Proverbs, the beginning of wisdom is fear of the Lord. Fear God. And he has given us, and this is another point, is who wrote this? Who wrote this story? And what was the character of the person who wrote this story? This story was written by Moses. Moses was the leader of the children of Israel through the wilderness. He wrote Genesis, as far as we are aware. This is, his record of, this is the 5 books of the Torah, the Jewish Torah. Moses. Who was Moses? He was like the prime minister of the country. He was like the king or the judge, and he was the greatest prophet that ever existed. He was the guy that parted the Red Sea and led the children of Israel through the Red Sea into the wilderness. He was the guy that received the law from God on Mount Sinai. He was the guy that led them up to the point of entry into the promised land. He was the guy that led them through the wilderness, all the trials that they had, and he led them wisely. He didn't enter the promised land because on one point he let God down and he didn't enter into the promised land. But he was highly regarded, and that is a first point of statement to make. You can read what he wrote in Deuteronomy, the songs he wrote, the wisdom that he had. He spoke to God face to face. So this story is a revelation. It's a revelation. And it's wisdom. So there's also structure to it. You can see the structure of it. It's got 1, 2, 3, and then 4, and then 5, 6, which are kind of like the completion of, the heavens, then the stars, then the land, and then the animals, and then the seas, and the fish, and, birds and skies, and then animals. And it's a kind of pattern. All the things that we have in here, we still have here. Now we have light, we have water, we have atmosphere, we have plants. We are sustained because we have all of these things. Without these things, take one of them away, we'll be dead. So that's a sort of a point. So it's wisdom literature. Wisdom literature. When people go, oh, how can you believe in the 7 days of, the story of creation? It's because it's wisdom literature. It also reveals things. It reveals the importance of God speaking and it coming into being. The other question is what was before the earth and what is after the earth and what is before the universe and what is after the universe. God spoke and therefore it came into being. God, what is time? What is time? I see this as, when I say yes, I believe in this, is because what I believe in is the principle of the week, 1 week. It talks about the sun and the moon marking the seasons. We are going round the sun at an angle, creating seasons, and as a result, we are having seasons that create a heartbeat for the planet to live, and that is based upon 1 day, 1 week. We go around the planet 52 weeks of the year, whatever it is, roughly, and that creates seasons because of our axis of the planet, because of the atmosphere. That creates a heartbeat, that creates life. All the seasons, and the moon rotating around the sun, around the earth, creates tides, which also have an effect on us. And it does sort of say that there is a relationship between the animals and the fish and the birds. It says, and according to its kind. So there's a connection between, and they're multiplied. They're blessed. And in the same way, we're blessed, and we fill the earth. But God says He created us in His own image, in our image. He doesn't say that to any other animal, but He created man in His own image, and it's on day 6, and He, there's so many deep truths in this, and He gave us food to live on, to provide for our food requirements, and He supplies it all, and there's an abundance. You just listen to this. So what I'm saying is this is a wisdom literature. Evolution might try and explain it in how the process happened, and we are constantly trying to investigate how did we end up where we've got to, and theories of evolution have come through and to explain it, and it falls down in that it can't explain how we got here. It can't explain language. There's debates on YouTube about consciousness, about language, whereas the Bible gives us a clear indication of there is a mind. You see it. God speaks. God sees. God sees. God hears. If you see something, that means there's a mind behind it. If you speak, then there is a mind behind that speaking. Evolution kind of explains our existence without God, but it has huge gaps that aren't explained. How can I spoke to this young lad on the street. He said, if you get an empty box, eventually you'll get something in it. To get from that all the way up to life on Earth, wow, that is a stretch, and the order of the planet, the balance. They talk about the universe being in perfect balance for life to be here on this planet. DNA, the cell, how it's got all this intricacies, so much truth, so much. It just points to a creator. I'm not an expert and I'm not a theologian, but these are my thoughts. I focus on the Bible. The evolutionary theory talks about survival of the fittest. You know, you survive, but you have to have life in the first place. You know, John Lennox has a debate with a guy about how does life come into being. John Lennox is an interesting guy, and I'd recommend you. You know, he's a Christian. He believes in God, and he has discussions with Dawkins about the God delusion and things like that. And atheists just seem to just bury their head in the sand, to be honest, about it. They just don't accept it, the evidence, and that's the issue with atheism. Is there's a sort of a stubbornness to accept truth. The Bible says that there's no excuse. You see God in His creation. It's evidence. It's like you see the evidence of humanity in the fact that we do things, we bring things into order, and we create things, and we make cities or whatever. That's the evidence of man. The evidence of God is His order in creation. You know, the fact that the planet rotates around the earth exactly the same time. We have seasons, we have DNA in our very nature that means that we don't mutate into something that will just turn into soup. There is a order, and we have existence as a result of God. This country seems to become more and more secular, but the reality is that science came out of religious people who are religious, people who are reading the Bible going, wow, there's truth in here. You know, there's so much. Anyway, that's my thoughts. I could go on and on, but I don't want to. God bless you today.